Give us the elevator pitch on what the iOS update is about. What's the big deal with it?
So essentially, users have to decide whether they want to opt in or opt out of tracking. So every app is now going to be required. It's going to ask you, do you want to be tracked across the web? And you're going to have to say either yes or no. And what that's going to do is it's going to provide difficulty for advertisers to both gather data and then measure data on the other side of that for like what kind of conversions they're getting.
Do you think the advertisers are going to be better in the long run? Like short term hurt, but long term everything will be sorted out? Or is this going to be a real problem going forward?
I think it's tough to say. I think platforms are going to have to rely a lot more on first party data. So instead of like gathering it from all different parts of the internet, essentially someone like Facebook is going to have to rely on every single data point they have within their own platform because they can't track like across anywhere else.
Right.
There's been a lot of updates in terms of like their conversion tracking and the requirements to be able to get that tracking. Like their attribution windows are changing. They're having to configure events and stuff like that within Business Manager. So I think it's definitely going to be some bumps in the road in the beginning for tracking. A lot of people projecting like 30% losses in conversions, whether it's like attributable or not. Like there's the one side where you can lose a little bit of data, so you're not as targeted, obviously, so your conversions are going to drop. But then the other side of the coin is you might have been targeted with an ad, but then if you don't agree to be targeted across the web, they can't attribute that conversion back to you. So even if it was to say like, oh, I saw that ad and then I converted and bought this, there's no actual attribution. So like an advertiser is going to be like, this isn't working, when maybe it is, you just can't see that it is.
And for the user, how many users do you think will be signing up for this? This is it's embedded inside like the privacy settings, so you have to go 2 or 3 clicks in order to hide your data from the advertiser.
So I think I have like a different opinion on it, like as someone in marketing, that like I feel like for me personally, I'm probably going to opt in terms of like the actual rate. Early on, I think most people are going to opt out, like the vast majority. But I would rather see a targeted ad towards me because they're going to be there either way. Unless you're paying for a platform, you're seeing marketing, you're seeing advertising. So I'd rather see something targeted towards me than just something random. So if they need like my data to utilize that, it's not using for anything else, then I'd be fine with it. I anticipate the vast majority of people will opt out and not go into that. So there's definitely going to be a big reduction in the beginning, in my opinion. And then as people see their ads aren't targeted or their user experience isn't as good anymore, I do wonder if they're actually going to decide to opt in later on.
So there's a big conversation we can have about privacy and whether or not people are really private. You know, it's a big discussion. But how does this bode for the advertiser? So what should the advertiser be wary of on the Facebook side? I'll give you the Google side of things a little later, but what should they be doing? Should they be tearing their hair out, or like what should be happening?
Like if you're advertising, like as the advertiser itself, I think there's probably some cause for worry because, like I said, like you are going to see like a little bit of a drop in conversions, whether it's the attribution or not. But I think there will be changes down the road. So I wouldn't say I'm like personally like super concerned, but there is definitely a cause for worry. I wonder how the platforms will adapt. I think something like programmatic might become a little more content-based, stuff like that, because you're losing the ability to track across the internet. So now maybe instead of tracking a person as they go, you're more tracking or targeting the content on the actual site itself. I could see it moving more in that direction. I think even Facebook is rolling something out like that, placements, where you can target based on the content of the video. So I see a move in that direction for a lot of marketing. But in general, I'd say like a slight worry, but I'm sure that the platforms will figure it out. I mean, they have so much first-party data themselves that like I can't imagine it's going to be that bad. What do you think?
On the paid search side of things, advertisers do not need to worry too much on search. So with search, not a lot is going to be affected because Google has its own mobile ID tracking, and so they're sort of good there.
Yeah.
On the display side, so anybody that's doing GDN, maybe some YouTube advertising, it's going to be very difficult to track and remarket to people. Google has plans for that, so we'll talk about FLoC later. Well, as we all know, third-party cookie tracking is going away, and Google is trying to bring some other technology that can replace it. We'll go into details, but Yeah, it doesn't affect search as much as it would Facebook, for example.
Okay. I mean, we could just jump into like FLoC now. At least like my intrigue, and then maybe this is a topic for like another video, is what Google's going to do with that data. Because right now they look like heroes, where they're like getting rid of third-party cookies in Chrome and stuff like that. And they're going to have access to a ton of data, like owning YouTube and all the search data and stuff like that. So they're moving to where they're bucketing it in FLoC, and they look like they're the heroes that are kind of getting rid of all this stuff, and they're increasing privacy. But like, what is Google going to do with that data? Are they going to keep it for themselves, and then you have to use just their DSPs or just their platform, or are they going to sell it to other people? Like, I feel like they look really good right now, but I feel like they're making out like bandits.
That's exactly what is going to happen. So the truth is, third-party cookie tracking works very simply, right? You visit sites, you tell sites, this is what I'm doing on your website. They take that data and then they parse it out, and then advertisers can have access to that and then target you. FLoC works differently, so it's federated learning of cohorts, right? What it does is it takes that user's behavior on the website and then puts it in a group, right? So you're targeting almost like similar audiences as opposed to specific individuals, which third-party cookie tracking does. The reason why it's better technology is because now Google has a lot more data on that individual, as opposed to not an individual, but groups of individuals that it can actually use. So previously, when you have an audience grouping, that audience grouping isn't as targeted. Let's put it that way. Now with FLoC, it's going to be a lot more targeted because you have a lot more data coming through to Google that they can bucket and that advertisers can target. So although you do not have that individual tracking, you have a better audience to target.
This is one of the concerns that I read. So it's more privacy focused and it's more, secure until it's not. And one of the issues that so many people are having is, okay, you're going to be assigned a FLoC ID, and that's going to be the ID of where you are in the grand scheme of things and what type of advertisements will come to you based on your interests or what have you. So if someone takes that and then someone figures out a way to assign an IP with that, they know everything. And that's where I've seen most of the hate online from. Because all you need to do is hook the two together and boom, now they know more than anything that they ever needed to know. They know browsing history. They know where you're located. They know where you browse that. They know what time. They know all the specifics. That was what I've been experiencing. Like, people are complaining. Like, yes, it's more privacy, absolutely, but someone has to just walk around and figure out a way to connect that with the data that they have existing, or figure out a way to track, or maybe some piece of malware or what have you that goes on, and then boom, they know everything and then some.
That's something I actually have to look into. I don't think you'd be able to do that.
Well, let's start the conspiracy now.
We could start it. I don't think you'd be able to do that, but I don't know.
I think that with malware, all the pieces that are, in place to extract data from you, that number, you're being assigned an ID, and there's got to be another way for them to sit there. And even if it's just a piece of malware, some sort of browser hack that goes on, it will give you everything.
Interesting. Because one piece here is, as John was saying, Google will have almost exclusive access to this data.
Well, Google's not going to do this. Google's sitting there saying, we're great, we're in privacy or whatnot. But Google's not sitting there doing this to be like, oh, we're going to lose money on this. No.
Not even
This
close.
is happening, and it will be something that Google can and probably already know how to capitalize on, whether it's 6 months, 6 years, 6 weeks down the road. This is going to be something that's going to be beneficial. And if you look at all the innovations that have happened in the past, 13 some odd years, we didn't have all the resources and all the tools that we had now. Being able to market with Google now is much more advanced than it was 10 years ago. I think this is going to give us long-term, better avenues of reaching those client needs because of what they're doing today.
Yeah. I can
As
agree
long
with
as they don't break it in the process.
that. I can agree with that. Should we talk about why FLoC wouldn't be a better, not for advertisers. This is for privacy. Why it wouldn't be a better option?
Isn't the way they're doing it now is with the cookie data, they know age, relative.
All demographics.
They I like it better because they know, hey, listen, he likes football and this thing, and he goes on these 12 websites. It's not like this is a white male, age 46, mortgage, 2 kids. I like that part. I don't know if it's good for advertising, but I like that part. If I could give the opportunity of giving them all of that information or the more secure private information, I would take the private information.
Interesting. This is probably why we need to have a discussion on, like, the larger discussion on privacy.
Yes.
It's a much bigger conversation. Would you rather give somebody accurate information about you and say, target me with ads that are very specific to me?
You have to get 5 people that aren't in marketing. Because I'm doing, I feel like when I give my information to someone, and because this is what I do and what I love and what I see and appreciate, I give them more. But bring somebody who believes that, having their phone as a direct signal for the NSA to shoot, lasers into them, they're going to give you a different answer.
Okay, that makes
That
sense.
has to be the conversation needs to be with a group of everybody, all walks of life. But yeah, other people are thinking this is the end times. There's going to be some craziness going on, and they're going to sit there and be able to give us ads based on what we're doing at that exact point in time.
How does all of this affect organic search, if at all?
I don't think it does at all. 0. I can't think of any instance that this would be problematic. Because it's not, there's a question that says, because there's a way that you can do this, and you can turn off your site to be able to have that type of advertisements, but in terms of organic search, no. Because that's not what you're looking to do. You're not sitting there, you're looking to make sure that you're the biggest authority and the most wisest and the most authoritative search for those keywords. So if you have a page on one specific subject, you have to be out of the thousands upon thousands of sites that are ranked for that keyword, you are the best. You have the most complete, thorough, and authoritative information on the site.
So if, behavioral advertising is probably going to change.
100%.
From how we know it. Is Google gearing up in any way on the organic side to collect data? So is there any new algorithm update that favors, a specific kind of or type of behavior because, that kind of targeting is going to change?
The only thing I've seen right now, they had that algorithm update. The page experience that they were trying to do.
Right.
They were supposed to bring it out. They pushed that aside, and it's kind of funny that they pushed this aside around the same time they announced FLoC. I wonder if there's a reasoning behind that.
Right.
I haven't seen any analytics that say it. Oh, yes, it is. But the page experience update is supposed to work on the core web vitals. So your site speed is supposed to be faster. You're supposed to have a more mobile-friendly website. You're supposed to clean it up to make it a better experience for mobile users and for just a better experience altogether. Mm-hmm. That's happening. It's going to start end of June, and it's going to end around end of August if it doesn't get postponed again. I don't think that we'll know any organic ramifications until FLoC has been adjusted more for paid and more for social and more for those. I think we're fine over here in the corner. Just got to make sure our sites are perfect. Google wants the best, the greatest. They want to make sure that any phone can go to that page and be able to not have any errors and be able to load it up instantaneously and make it a smooth experience for the users. So that's what organic should do right now. If you're an organic search or that's your job description, that's what you should be working on. Make the site better for users, especially with mobile.
Nice. One of the concerns that I personally have with FLoC on the display side of things, so for anybody that's running GDN, is conversion tracking, just tracking in general. So right now, it's not very clear how users are going to be remarketed to. because there's no past data to rely on. And conversion tracking, specifically attribution, is going to be difficult. It's going to be interesting to see how Google kind of solves that problem. Maybe they build a tool that,
Right.
an additional tool that allows you to be able to track view through conversions, or whatever it is.
Do you think they have it? I feel like they have to have it by now. Even if it's not like launched, I feel like they would. I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of privacy concerns and stuff, but I can't imagine that they would move forward and not have an idea of how to
Right.
conversion track it
If they
capacity.
do, they haven't announced
I think
it or
that's
said
that's
anything
the
about it.
next thing. I think we're gonna have this update come through in the next, in a month and a half, 2 months. You're gonna start seeing more of that. This is phase one of their 4-phase program that they're working on.
Yeah,
They
this is
probably
a-
have 3 of them already set up.
This is a mid next year thing, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's still some time, but before then, you're on edge trying to figure out how you're going to show ROI, how you're going to show conversions. For
That's a good
clients.
question. That's the question that everybody wants to know. Anybody that's watching this or going over this. What do we do now? Me, I'm fine. I don't have to worry about anything right now except for making sure that, I am the best in organic and I don't think this is going to affect me. But what do you have to do moving forward? What's your goal one right now?
John, you want to take this for Facebook?
I mean, I don't know. I feel like in a lot of capacities, a lot of people are at mercy to what the platform is able to update right now, right? I mean, from the social side, Facebook, like I said before, with even iOS and stuff, has rolled out so many updates trying to keep up with what Apple's doing, and then it's the same thing with a cookieless future. So I think you're almost at the mercy of what the platform's technological capabilities are to target or to I guess quantify conversion tracking and return on ad spend, but that's definitely the biggest question right now, and I don't know if any platform has 100% the answer until we find out more where this is going.
100% agree. From an audience tracking perspective, Google has some interest in that because they do have to make money at the end of the day. And so we can always say we can rely on them to be able to advance that technology before next year, hopefully. On the conversion tracking side of things, they do have some interest in there, but that's almost reliant on the advertiser. So like John said, yeah, at this stage, it's almost 100% reliance on Google to be able to develop something before that time.
I mean, even Facebook has a conversion API that it's possible to use in the past, and it's on the server side, but just for developers and anyone to be able to do it right now. And even they have said that they haven't figured out that 100% for attribution. So it might be the future in terms of tracking through, Facebook specifically, but even they have specifically said they haven't quite figured out exactly how they're going to be able to track that.
So sit down, buckle up, and wait to see what happens.
Pretty much.
Kind of.